bit of a different location compared to normal. Obviously, we're usually either in the gym or at home cooking, but I've decided to start a new little, I guess we could call it a venture. I really enjoyed doing the podcast that I did with Magic Eye Media, Jay Davis, for his podcast that he does, which is called the Beautiful Struggle Podcast. And we went and delved into things that potentially I wouldn't usually speak about day to day on YouTube. And I do believe that there's a real gap in the market for females that really actually do speak about everything to do with bodybuilding, and maybe even things just not to do with bodybuilding, but just pure, truthful honesty, rather than it being very sappy or very girly or very flamsy. Like, that's just the polar opposite of me. So I really enjoyed doing it. I got a really great response from it, which is incredibly nice, from both males and females. And Jay, lots of other people within my circle gave me some confidence to want to go and do something similar-ish on my own. So I've decided to start my own podcast. There's going to be a variety of things. There's going to be a variety of me just talking, maybe some chats with other people, not just females, but other people within the industry. Definitely going to get Cooper involved, because obviously we have a lot of our own or same opinions, could we say, but maybe even differences in certain things. And I just think it's nice to be able to get potentially the thought process behind even where my bodybuilding journey started, because my real bodybuilding journey did start when I met Cooper. Prior to that, I was pretty much just making it up as I went along. So I'm obviously incredibly grateful for him, and obviously he'd be a really great guest / I guess you could call co-host as part of it. But we're going to call it Off Cuff with Meg. So hopefully you enjoy it. I'm going to do the first episode today all on my own, so boo-hoo. Hopefully you don't find me too boring, but I am going to delve into some things that I've obviously spoken about before, but potentially a little bit deeper into me, and hopefully that also helps other people as well. So the first little thing that I wanted to chat about is food relationship when starting as a bodybuilder. So for me, I find the ability to help others with food relationship issues, and I'm not delving into the realms of things like anorexia, bulimia, etc. I know that those things do need to be seen to and supported by real medical professionals. And if you are a coach that's selling someone who has serious issues like that a dream that they're going to be okay through bodybuilding, I think it's a real lie. And if you've ever had that, I am very sorry that you have had that. But those who do have relationship issues, maybe even just struggle to eat, or struggle to either eat because they're scared to eat, or struggle to not eat when they're feeling a little bit emotional, those are things that when I first started coaching, was pretty much one of my biggest things that I loved to do. And I got a lot of, what's the word I'm looking for? Just happiness out of being, or satisfaction, job satisfaction, from being able to help others who really do have similar issues. And I'll go into that right now. So obviously you probably see me now. I eat anything and everything. I don't have an issue with my food. When I finished my bodybuilding season, yes, hunger levels are high, but my food focus is not that bad to the point where I'm like salivating thinking about my next meal or the next cheat meal or what I'm going to be able to have per show and hoarding things, etc. Like, I'm just not like that. Off season, I'm fine. I'll have an off-plan meal. It's not a problem. I don't need to overeat. In prep, I don't have an off-plan meal. I am absolutely fine. I would say that I have very good freedom of food within my mind, and it's something that I am incredibly proud of, because I was not that way. Obviously, you know from watching the podcast with Magic Eye that I used to be a diver for Great Britain. Obviously, with that came lots of pressures. When we were very young, we were in lots of different kind of, I guess you could call them seminars, because I was put onto a kind of international program for athletes from the age of 8. So there was a lot of pressure to be great at every part of your life, being able to balance school and bodybuilding and diving, being able to have a social life, being able to eat well, being able to do your homework, educate, etc. There are all these different things that you put under pressure to be really great at, and nutrition was one of them. But that's not where the problem stemmed from. They were actually really great, and if those lessons had been taught potentially to coaches or lessons being continued as I was a diver, potentially I wouldn't have stemmed into the issues that I had when I was a little bit older. So nutrition was really great, etc., etc. So then obviously I became a woman. I did start my period very late. I was like I think I was just 16 when that started, maybe actually a little bit older. I might have been closer to 17. I'll have to ask my mum. Anyway, I was very late with that happening. They thought that it was because I was obviously diving and within the sport for such a long time, and that's why it was kind of stunting almost my development because I didn't have any boobs and things like that. Anyway, got my period, started to become a woman. At that time, obviously lots of hormones were going through my body. I had a coach from the age of 8 all the way through to that point, and I was getting very upset about the way that he was. He wasn't actually, looking back and reflecting on it, he wasn't actually being any different to how he'd always been. It's just that obviously I was going through that change, a lot more hormonal, and just taking things to heart a lot more than what I should have been. So I decided to change coaches, and I will state this fact. It is the worst decision that I ever made going away from him, because that's when my fall of my competitive diving career came. And it's just because I was surrounded by people that were very selfish, which also absolutely fine, because diving, much like bodybuilding, is a very selfish sport in that it's a very individual sport. You have to look out for yourself. But I just wish that I'd never made the choice to go to a different coach, because that's when things really started to fall down. So I was going through this change. I was still eating as I would as I was a young girl, potentially not at times making the best of choices, with like a little bit of a snack here, a little bit of a snack there. And obviously I started piling on quite a little bit of weight. From that, the coach was horrible and continued to remind me of the fact that I was putting on weight, not doing anything to support me to get better and improve my knowledge around nutrition and things. And I'm saying that I'm a 16, 17-year-old girl. At that point, I probably did need a little bit of direction, yes. But it was just a case of, you're overweight, you this, you that. I remember him, I was stood on the board and he was singing "Who Ate All the Pies" to me and stuff like that. And it was awful, because you'd be surrounded by lots of other professional athletes within that same environment, and you're getting all of this hammer, etc. But again, no support given. So off the back of that, I actually got incredibly injured. I can't remember what I did. I got injured a few times when I was diving. I think it might have been my foot. We were doing this warm-up that the new coach had given, and I rolled my ankle and actually broke my foot. So obviously I was out from diving for a little bit of time, and I decided then, when I broke my ankle, I was like, right, okay, I'm going to take this opportunity to really sort out myself in regards to my body and getting a little bit leaner, because obviously I've been getting called fat, etc. I had no knowledge. My mum and my dad aren't the best with nutrition. They're definitely a lot better now, but my mum's always been a very overweight woman, etc. So I took upon myself to think, right, I'm going to diet, and it became a real obsession. Obviously, bodybuilding, I think we all have to be a little bit nuts and obsessive to want to do it, and people can say that it's a healthy sport. It's definitely not. It really is obsessive. It's an addiction. It's something that you probably can't live without, and when you finish, you've got to try and find something else to be addicted to. So I'd found that with dieting, and I was so silly. I'm not going to say that I had a food... I had a food relationship issue, yes, but I did not have an eating disorder. I wasn't making myself sick. I hadn't put myself into hospital because I wasn't eating enough and things like that. I was definitely binging. That was a problem, but to the point where in a day, because I'd figured out my fitness pal, I was having like 500 calories a day, and then going on a run and be like 1,500 calories. Like, I was plummeting, and I think I got down to like 43 kilos, and I'm not a very big person, and that was very, very, very skinny. My mom, my dad, my brother, everybody was obviously incredibly worried about me, etc. And I started getting a little bit better, but my food relationship definitely wasn't very good. Even when I first started bodybuilding, because of that, like, food relationship wasn't very good. The focus was there, the hunger kind of signaling, the food wanting to eat lots and lots. And even after the first show, obviously the really bad binging, etc., really, really occurred for me. And then I found Kuba and he taught me that it's okay to eat. It's okay to eat different foods and for those to obviously fit within your macros, because I was able to eat so many different varieties of foods and it's still within my calorie target. I wasn't having any cravings. I felt so much better. And like he's been the biggest change around in that for me, someone that was okay with the fact that potentially sometimes I'm a little bit chubby because I'm in an off season, or because I'm kind of normal Meg, which I was when I first started to meet him, or I'm extra skinny for a competition. And through that time of learning and educating, through understanding nutrition a little bit more, being able to have a more varied diet, learning to cook really well, and because he cooks incredibly well, and obviously learning that I can make foods taste really, really great, has just really helped my food relationship. And I feel so much less stress. I don't feel like, the only way that I can describe someone who is always in a bad rut with food is they just feel weighed down by it all the time. I was actually having a conversation about it with one of my good bodybuilding friends the other day, who does really struggle with her food relationship, even now doing a few competition preps. And it's because sometimes you're in an environment where you don't go out for food and then it becomes a problem, or you're going out too often and it's a problem. I think the most important thing is being able to find whatever path you're in, whether you're in a diet, whether you're in an off season, whether you're in a calorie surplus or a maintenance, learning and understanding that you can enjoy life and have a little bit of balance, but it has to be fitting within whatever phase you're in, just allows you to be able to have that freedom. And it just allows you to just feel that little bit better. So that was my own journey with food relationship. I know that lots of people will resonate with that. If you are someone who's had something like anorexia, bulimia, like a real true eating disorder, not just like me where it was literally just a food relationship issue, you do need to speak to a professional. It's not what a bodybuilding coach is there to do. And if they try to tell you that they really aren't qualified to do that. Do I personally feel like people that have had real true eating disorders should do bodybuilding? I'm not going to tell you yes or no. The one thing that I will say is that I've had clients with me who've had real true eating disorders. I have probably seen one of them really excel with bodybuilding and allowed for that kind of eating issue to become a little bit more nullified. The rest of them, it hasn't worked. That doesn't mean that they can't choose to be healthy and fit. They can't choose to be a bodybuilder and work on their physique and improve. But that real heavy dieting, that real addictive personality that they do have because of what they've been through, can really come back, and it can really bite them back on the butt. So a word of caution, I wouldn't do it if it was me and I had had that issue before. But if you do, make sure that you have a real true professional in your corner to make sure that they can support you through that. If you have got food relationship issues, and I'm not talking about actual eating disorders, make sure that you're speaking to your coach. If your coach cannot support you through that, you need a different coach, because the type of people who do have those issues need a lot of support. They need more nurture. They need more care. Don't be afraid to say that, but also don't be upset if the coach who does care about you and wants to support you is asking you the questions, are we not sticking to diet here? Is this not going quite so right? Because they need to know to be able to help, understand, and help you step forward. If we delve a little bit deeper into food relationships around an actual prep setting, you've got to remember that a prep is only going to exasperate, and I think that's the word, the issues that you do have. Because, and that, again, I'm not talking from a front of someone who's got a real eating disorder. I'm talking about someone who really struggles with their food relationship, and that can be a few different ways. Someone who's afraid to eat, so really struggles to eat. Someone who is not afraid. Someone who's an emotional eater, so they obviously eat when anything gets a little bit kind of stressy, and I mean like any tiny little bit of stress, even if it's just a case of I woke up, my dog's been sick, and potentially there might be a problem, that type of emotional eater. Or there's literally just someone who's a little bit greedy. And they're like just a few of the different food relationship issues that we do see. So the first one, the person who obviously struggles to eat, you'll tend to find that they'll thrive really well in a competition prep. And that's well and good, but they'll really struggle in an off season. I'm scared to add body weight. You're adding foods and the body weight's not going up, etc. In that instance, that person is not sticking to a plan. Energy expenditure is basic science. If you add foods, your body weight goes up, and if you reduce expenditure, body weight goes up because you are in a calorie surplus. If you are going into a deficit, you drop foods, you higher expenditure, you're in a deficit. Your body weight should move down. Your body composition should move down. If we went into assisted bodybuilding and we start adding in PEDs, there's certain elements to the point where you're not seeing that much body weight movement, but let's just talk it as a general rule of thumb. Energy expenditure works. So your coach isn't silly, and if your coach is not actually catching on at the fact that obviously these things aren't happening, then potentially, again, it might be time to get a new coach. Because if this person who struggles to eat, body weight isn't going up in the off season, etc., they are not sticking to plan. If you have a coach who's asking you that, and for me, sometimes I say to my clients, look, let's have a look at your pictures of your meals each time you eat. Let's see them when you finish them so that I can see that you're actually eating. Usually within that time of you actually getting those pictures through, you then start to see that the body weight actually goes up. They stop sending the pictures and then body weight starts to either maintain or go down because they're not eating it. If you are someone who struggles to eat in the off season and you're not telling your coach, when you start to then try to go into a deficit and the coach is then pulling down the foods from your base calories that you've not actually been sticking to, nothing happens. So then it becomes that your competition prep is really hard because you've already been in a deficit. They're then going to try and pull you more into a deficit. You then diet on dust or cardio to the nines, etc., and that's just not a great prep environment to be in. The same for someone who is, oh, well, not the same, but same, but different. When it comes to someone who can't adhere to a plan in that they overeat a lot, you'll find that in the off season, they have their base food plan. They obviously can't stick to their plan because they're always hungry, always wanting to eat, binging. Maybe this is the type of person who is an emotional eater or just someone who just binges because they can't deal with that feeling of being hungry. You are going to have to deal with the fact that you are hungry. Even if you are someone who's in an off season, you will feel hungry at times, but that is okay. Hunger is okay. If you are a normal person and you're listening to this and not someone who is a bodybuilder, if you feel hungry, that is not a bad thing. Obviously, you'll have your calorie maintenance. Sometimes you'll feel hungry. Sometimes you'll not feel hungry, etc. Actually, your hunger hormone that obviously works throughout, it is not a bad thing to be hungry. And I think the sooner people learn that, rather than trying to fill that void with food, the better things will be in terms of you being able to keep your food relationship and your physique in a much better spot. But you get the people who say that they're sticking to plan, but their body weight's always shooting up. And that is because they are eating above and beyond their calories, whether that be way too much in an off-plan meal, that their body weight is going up really far from that, or whether throughout the days that they've got their base blue plans, they're then adding other little things in there, an extra piece of chocolate there, an extra 10 grams of oats here, etc. And that's why the body weight is going up and up and up and up all the time without really any changes. If you are someone who can adhere, you would find that your body weight goes up gradually and then it'll hit a maintenance point, and that's probably every 3-4 weeks. And I'm just talking in a roundabout fashion here. I'm not talking about actual statistics. then you add some more food, and then that happens again. You add some more foods, that happens again. That is how it works. If you are someone whose body weight's going up all the time because, and you've kept the foods the same, it's because you're not sticking to plan. It's because you're not able to adhere. You're eating too much in your off-plan meals, etc., etc. And again, that's also someone that should not be doing a competition prep, because if you can't adhere in the off-season, and yes, have your balance with an off-plan meal where you eat it well, where you have a little holiday here and you enjoy yourself and you maybe go out on a few nights out here and there, etc. Yeah, absolutely fine. That person is ready to go. But if somebody is said person that I've just talked about, an emotional eater, or really struggles to be able to stick to plan even when they're having the highest of calories or kind of higher calories in their base plan, they're not ready to start a prep. And you need to go through a process of them being able to adhere first in an off season before you do start a competition prep. Otherwise, these are the types of people that A, are going to cheat on their diet in a competition prep, B, binge on their diet in a competition prep, or post-show is going to go incredibly, incredibly bad for them. And for a competition prep, for a competition, it is not worth ruining your food relationship just for the sake of a competition. So you need to make sure that if any of these different scenarios are you, that you communicate that with your coach. And don't feel nervous to do that. That is a big, brave thing to do, to actually say that to your coach. And it's super important that you do share that. Otherwise, the coach, well, your coach should know without you telling them, but if they've not broached the subject, you do need to say, because you're just putting yourself at more of a risk to really ruin your mindset. The other factor is your coach. If your coach cares enough, they will be asking you very uncomfortable questions. I've had clients leave. I've had clients retaliate towards me for asking the uncomfortable questions. Are you sticking to plan? Why are you doing this in regards to your off-plan meals that are making your body weight going up and up and up? Why are you eating like a really hungry bodybuilder rather than just like a normal person? I've had these uncomfortable conversations across all fronts. Sometimes people are really appreciative because they've realised that it's coming from a place of care and want for them to actually get better and improve and be able to stay in bodybuilding if that's something that they're truly passionate about. Or to be able to have those conversations to say, look, I just don't think bodybuilding's for you. Doesn't mean that we can't work together, but probably competition prep's not something that's really going to solve the problem, especially not right now. And then there's some people that just don't like that conversation. They'll tell you, I've been thinking about wanting to leave for a while, and then they decide to leave. And then the kind of same vicious circle just keeps on happening and happening with lots of different coaches. So if you have a problem, it's not an issue, like it really isn't. I've just talked about my issues and how I've not had the best in terms of food relationship, and it took a lot for me to be able to share that with people that I'd feel would potentially judge me for it, Tuba being one of them, because he's the type of person that would never cheat on his diet. And I'm not saying that I was cheating on my diet, but my first shows did not go well. I've never checked on my diet in a comp prep, but my first two shows did not go very well. Having the courage to be able to tell Kuba that was hard. So if you are someone that's dealing with any of those different things and you do have a coach, share it. If you don't feel like you can share that with them, share it with someone that you feel like you can share it. My DMs are always open, and I'm always happy to help anybody with any issues that they do have. So we've spoken about food relationships and the fact that sometimes people eat too many calories, add little things here and there, and that makes their body weights really shoot up. The one thing that people sometimes just aren't aware of, and I guess when I was younger, I definitely wasn't as aware of this, but knowing that I know now and through being educated, etc., and doing my own learning, etc., you understand off-plan eating a little bit more. So an off-plan meal is there for you to be able to get a really nice little amount of balance when it comes to your life. You don't have to have one every single week. You can have one every single week. Obviously, if you're in a competition prep, probably not so much. But for the most part, you should be able to keep an off-plan meal in. If you think about an off-plan for someone that's not a competitive bodybuilder, that's maybe a couple going out to go enjoy a nice evening out together, to be able to come back home or maybe go out and paint the town red, etc. It's not about going in there, eating so much until you're feeling completely sick, really bloated and really big. It's just about going in there and enjoying your food. Bodybuilders need to start treating it that way. Unless your coach has literally specified, look, we need to get your body weight up a little bit here. Maybe we're in a deep hole with prep. We need to eat quite a little bit of food, quite calorific, taking calories quite high. Let's approach it in this way. Any other time when you're just eating an off plan, it's there for balance. And that doesn't mean that you need to go out and eat like a hungry bodybuilder. It means that you need to go out and you need to have a good time. What I like to do is I like to take a couple of my meals out so that I can have a similar amount of calories ready for a couple of off-plan meals. It means that it keeps my digestion in a good place. I'm not over-consuming foods. It means that body composition stays good. It means that my body weight stays around the same, might go up a tiny little bit, might go down a tiny little bit, but it's a nice little bit of balance. It's not there to go out, eat your heart out. You need to be adding the calories from your coach being able to build up your base foods, because that is how you're going to add really good quality muscle tissue. Again, to reiterate, you don't need to not have an off-plan meal. You can go out, you can enjoy it, etc. But you do have to be smart about it and not eat until you completely, it's all coming out of your mouth and your nose and your ears and your eyes. It needs to be something that's just enough. And the sooner you learn it, the sooner you learn that, the better. The other thing with off-plan meals is you do have to be a little bit cautious with what you eat. And maybe that's even, we could talk about base food plan as well. And it kind of all comes into the same little thing that I'm going to end on, is that you have to be really careful with hidden calories. It's like, I remember having a conversation with one of my clients and I said, look, body weight's gone up by about 2.5 kilos here from an off-plan meal. Like, that's a lot of food. Or a lot of calories. Like, what have you had? I only had chicken and rice. Right, okay. I was like, surely we can't have had just chicken and rice. Did we have any sauces with that? Did we have any ice cream with that? Well, I actually got it from an Indian, so it was a chicken tikka masala or whatever it was, and rice. I was like, right, okay. So within that, there is heavily creamed, heavily oiled sauce, which is obviously lots and lots and lots of calories. You wouldn't know that by looking at it, because you're just looking at it as chicken and rice. And maybe when you're at home and you make your paprika chicken and rice and you potentially put a little bit of water in, so it's got a bit of sauce, you think it's just the same, but it is the polar opposite. And you might be sat there thinking, wow, yeah, as if people don't know that. Like, Meg, what are you talking about? Like, everybody knows that that's what it is. No, like, people really don't know. And the more that we can educate and talk about stuff like that, the better. Sushi. Yes, sushi's a great meal, but then you go somewhere and it's covered in mayo, or it's stuffed with mayo, or stuffed with cheese, and you have all the ones that have got avocado in. That's so many fats, that's so many calories, especially from the mayo, the avocado, etc. You're taking an off-plan meal that could be quite healthy into something that's going to be really calorie dense. So you have to think about these little things that are in there. Even people that are on a prep, oh yeah, I'm still having a cup of tea. Are you still having 200 mils of skimmed milk in that cup of tea? Because that's adding extra calories that you shouldn't be having. There's all these little things that you need to think about with hidden calories, what's in there, etc. Educating, learning, understanding what macros, what calories are in different things to know what you can and potentially not can't have, but need to have a little bit more in moderation. And potentially learning of how to take out specific amount of calories, to add in specific amount of calories, swaps and changes, etc. Because it's fine to do that, but you have to know that there's different things in different products, and it's really important that you aren't adding and going above and beyond your calorie allotment. And you need to make sure that obviously everything that you are having has had a little bit of thought process behind it. Make sure you make your foods nice. Don't be afraid to add herbs, seasonings, spices. Make sure you're using enough salt, etc., etc. But be careful with the different sauces, drinks that you're having that potentially aren't calorie-free, etc. Jellies, etc. Like, potentially they're not, maybe they are zero sugar, but potentially they're not actually calorie-free because they'll probably have some carbohydrates in. So think about it, be smart about it. Hopefully you've enjoyed the podcast. That was mostly based around food relationship, etc. I'll be back with another off cuff with Meg at some point into the future. So anything that you'd like me to talk about, any guests that you would like me to have, any discussions that you would like me to have with Kuba, please either comment below, pop me a message on a DM, please like, share, subscribe, and that's good.